Welcome back. House Democrats are pushing for emergency legislative action to prevent the Trump administration from taking further military action in Venezuela. Caucus members, I'm told, just got off of an emergency virtual meeting just this afternoon. Want to get right to Democratic Congresswoman Sara of California. She serves on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congresswoman, thanks for joining us. I know that House Democrats just huddled on an emergency virtual call on this very issue we've been talking about all day, all weekend. What are the action items coming out of that call as all of you head back to Washington?
Yeah, well, look, I think we are all united in knowing that we need to take real decisive action in constraining what Donald Trump can do moving forward and real oversight in terms of what has happened and what the plan is moving forward, because we all know how bad regime change can be. Look, Ali, you and I are both millennials. We lived through the Iraq and Afghanistan wars. We lived through what happened in Libya. We know that it is not so clear cut that you just take out a bad leader and that you're going to get what you want. There's a lot of unforeseen consequences, power vacuums, uncertainties that go into this. And, we've seen that regime change doesn't actually make Americans safer, and it doesn't actually make people in that country better off in most cases. And so I have a lot of questions still. And I think that's why we're so focused on the decisive action we can take this week. Now, what is that going to look like? So the Senate is voting this week on Senator Kane's War Powers resolution. I believe the House should do something similar, that we should vote on a war powers resolution this week. I also think we need to be really seriously looking into what we can do around constraining spending and what and where and how money can be spent in terms of not only what's happening in Venezuela, but also looking at the other things that the Trump administration has said around Greenland and Canada and Mexico and Colombia and Cuba, right? Like, this is not a one-off thing. I think we need to be looking to what the Trump administration might be doing next and be constraining them as immediately as possible. Now, a lot of this is going to come down to what our Republican colleagues are going to be willing to work with us on. Yeah. We saw a number of them work with us on the War Powers resolution before the holiday break. Unfortunately, not enough to get it passed. But a lot of my Republican colleagues said that they just felt it was premature. And I'm hopeful that now that something has actually happened and it's very clear that this is not premature, that we will have more of our Republican colleagues willing to work with us to put real constraints on this administration's illegal actions.
Yeah, and we have Senator Tim Kaine coming up in our next hour, because I agree with you. That is going to be one of the significant actions. We've seen these kinds of war power resolutions, similar ones, though not exactly the same one that's coming up in the Senate this week, fail to get the votes that they need. And then, of course, the dynamics in the House are such, as you were just saying. But I think the other thing is members are saying that the administration, in the briefings that you guys have had, which have been few, but still have happened, that these actions were not detailed, they were not previewed, and that in many cases, the administration said this is exactly what they were not going to do. I mean, to the extent that you can talk about what you were told, was there ever an inclination that you were given that this was happening or so imminently?
No, that's exactly right, Ali. I have been in many, many briefings where Secretary Rubio, Secretary Hegseth, members of the state and defense departments were specifically asked, is there any plan in place for regime change? Is this one of the goals? What are the plans? What are you doing? And in all cases, we were told that, yes, DOD plans for everything. That's their job, but that there were no imminent plans to do any of this. And that is very concerning, because there's a lot of public reporting that shows that the CIA and others have actually been working on this since August. Yeah. And so I think that is one of the areas we need to have real oversight on, like, did they lie to Congress? And how long has this planning been going on? But I also think it's important to note, like, yes, there's a lot of these questions of legality and what we didn't get told. And those are important, and we need to be following up on them. And we also need to recognize that even if this was authorized by Congress, which it wasn't, regime change does not end well in most cases. Like, we've seen what happened in the aftermath of Saddam Hussein being taken out in Iraq, of Muammar Gaddafi being taken out in Libya. Like, yes, at first, people are excited and happy because these are really bad people, but that doesn't actually mean that the outcome we're going to get is one that we want or one that's going to make us any safer.
Yeah, I think that's the point that I want to seize on next, right, Congresswoman? Because before you were in office, you were at the UN, you were at the State Department. You have a long history in foreign policy. And I think for a while, the U.S. policy has been that Maduro is a dictator. President Biden called him a thug. But certainly this level of escalation is new. It's stunning. But on its face, what do you think about removing Maduro?
Look, I don't think there's any dispute that Maduro is a bad guy, is a dictator, is, implicated in a lot of these really bad things that are happening in the region. However, there are a lot of really bad dictators all over the world. And just because someone is a really bad dictator does not mean that the United States should or can just go in and remove them. Part of what Donald Trump ran on was ending these forever wars, was not being the world's policeman. And I think, our generation, Allie, others, we understand that actually we live in a different world now. We don't want the United States to necessarily be the world's policeman, to be spending all of this money overseas when we have all of these challenges here at home that we're not spending the resources we need on. And so, yes, Maduro is a bad guy. That doesn't mean we should go in unilaterally, militarily, and take him out. Just like we shouldn't do that for every other bad dictator there is all over the world.
I will say the hottest document in Washington may be the national security strategy, which is probably a phrase that has never been said before.
Never
but
been
even
said
just on
before.
page one, never been said before, but here we are. Even on page one, it says, our elites badly miscalculated America's willingness to shoulder forever global burdens to which the American people saw no connection to the national interest. And so even the administration, and as someone who's covered President Trump since he was a candidate in 2015, who took pride in the fact that he was against the Iraq war when many of the others in the Republican Party were for it. I mean, I do think that this is an about-face that is interesting on so many levels. And as Congress comes back to town, certainly so many questions here. I guess my final one to you very quickly is, are there any briefings that you guys have been notified of that you're going to get as you come back to town this week?
We've been told that there are plans to try and get a briefing for next week, but nothing that we know of that's been confirmed. We have no specific things. I sit on both the Foreign Affairs and the Armed Services Committee, so we are going to be pushing hard, both for briefings and for our full committees to be having hearings on this. And we're also going to be working, if we can't get agreement from our Republican colleagues, to do our own kinds of, public shadow hearings and other kinds of fact-finding and investigations and public showing of this evidence, because we know that the decision to go to war is an incredibly important decision. I represent San Diego, the biggest military community in the country, right? We are literally talking about my constituents being sent to do these operations. And it's important that the American public gets a say in this and gets to actually see what the evidence is, what the plan is, and gets a real say via Congress on whether or not we should do this.
And just what the end goal and the plan is here. We'll leave it there for now. Congresswoman Sara Jacobs, thank you. I'll see you back on the Hill this week.